The reason why I chose to speak on this today is because there is an alarming rate of suicides and suicidal ideation in the LGBTQ community, especially in the youth. The Trevor Project is an organization that is dedicated to reducing these numbers. They did a study in 2023 stating that about 41% of LGBTQ youth seriously consider suicide. Non-binary people and/or people of color also reported higher rates as well. Transgender and non-binary young people who reported that all of the people that they live with respect their identity and their pronouns reported much less suicidal ideation. So even just that one factor of respecting somebody's identity can lower those numbers significantly. But it's not just the youth. And I really want to drive that home. Yes, we need to protect our youth, but we also need to pay attention to the people who are living and actively functioning in society, right? So the National Library of Medicine did a study in 2023 showing that there is a much larger percentage of individuals that have suicidal ideation or have attempted suicide. And this is in all age ranges, right? Especially between 25 and 44. That number is incredibly alarming at about 45% of the individuals that they surveyed. So this is just touching on the importance of this subject. And I don't want to bring you all down here, but I just want to relay the importance of this. So sharing and respecting appropriate pronouns for everyone can create an environment of acceptance, respect, just basic human respect, validation. Some people's identity, the way that they live, the way they walk, talk, breathe, dress, all has to do with how others are viewing them and how others might just respect their identity. That creates that validation in who they are and what they're doing. It also creates an environment of support. It is vitally important that we have support from our community. If we don't have that, it isolates us, right? So it's vital that we're paying attention and we're being inclusive and we're doing everything that we can to just put that step forward, put that foot forward, and offer that, just respecting pronouns. So I want to go over a few terms because I found that a lot of people don't actually know what the terms mean. Non-binary is a gender or sexual identity that is not defined in terms of opposition or of the traditional binary, such as male or female. That just falls kind of under the umbrella of either outside or inside. I highly encourage everybody to self-educate because this is a much broader topic than what I'm putting it into these 10 seconds with. But please self-educate. There are all kinds of different terms, but this is just touching on that. Cisgender is a person whose sense of personal identity and gender corresponds with their birth sex. And gender itself is a socially constructed set of characteristics that includes the norms, roles, and expressions and relationships between those two binary oppositions. And I want to stress social construct, right? Gender is a social construct. It is something that society creates and evolves and morphs, so it's ever changing, and we're in a really exciting time right now where that is shifting. The social construct of gender is starting to change a little bit. So there is a concept that I want everyone to contemplate and just consider, that gender can be something that an individual might flex in between or outside of. It is not something that somebody has to stick with, right? I have had multiple pronouns in my life, right? Just trying to figure it all out. I encourage people to just embrace where somebody is in their life in that moment. We're all always changing. Our favorite color might change. The way that we feel might change. Our favorite place might change just based on how we're developing, right? The experiences that we're having, right? And that can change the way that you see yourself. So there's no real wrong way or right way to identify or express your gender identity or your pronoun. So how can you be a better ally, right? Some of you may not be part of the LGBTQ community, so you might be asking yourself, how can I be more supportive? The biggest thing that you can do is generalize pronouns, right? Normalize that. So when you're introducing yourself to somebody, you can say, hi, my name is Ray. I use they, them pronouns. What about you? If you open up that conversation, it creates an inclusive environment automatically. I can't tell you how many times I've witnessed this with people who are transgender or non-binary, or even just somebody who's cisgender and trying to figure out what it's all about. Becoming more familiar with that set of terms and that way of introducing yourself and normalizing that is going to create an automatically inclusive environment. So if you can, I encourage everybody, when you're introducing yourself, it's going to feel a little weird at first, right? Because this is not the norm. But when you're introducing yourself, include pronouns. Make sure that that's known. Open that door for people to walk in. Let them know that you're a safe space. That's the easiest way to do that. So there are a large variety of pronouns. The most common you're going to hear is she, her, he, him, they, them. There's also a large array of neopronouns. Again, this is where self-education comes in. Self-educate. Look up that list of pronouns, figure out what they mean. They're all very unique, they're all very special, and they're all extremely valid. When you hear an odd pronoun you've never heard before, don't question it, do your research, come back to them with that knowledge. So some things that we can do to create inclusive language. In recent history, human history, we use sir and ma'am. I grew up in a military household, a law enforcement household. Sir and ma'am were the respectful thing. If you weren't saying sir or ma'am, you were being actively disrespectful. So that was really ingrained in me. Say sir or ma'am, that way people think that you're being respectful. That shifted now, right? So if you're at the grocery store and you get addressed as ma'am or sir, sometimes people will say, I'm not old enough to be a ma'am, don't call me that, right? Sometimes people are just put off by it. And sometimes people are like, wow, I'm really glad that you called me ma'am. That's very respectful. Thank you, young man. But it's a mixed bag, right? And that's kind of where the social construct is shifting, right? We're kind of in that in-between right now where some people are okay with it, some people are not okay with it. But what I encourage you to do is just express your message. Think about what you're trying to say and say it as respectfully as possible without including pronouns. It's not really necessary. Unless you know that person's pronouns and you know that they're gonna really love being called sir, then okay, use it, right? Not asking you to completely change your vocabulary. Just asking you to open up your mind and question what your actual message is and convey that instead. English is a weird language, right? We kind of have to tiptoe around things. Things are always changing. But yeah, just focus on that message, deliver the message, nothing attached to it. When addressing a crowd, I went to a conference in Minneapolis when I first got this job. First conference, felt like a real business person, pretty excited about that. But every single speaker that went on stage did not say ladies and gentlemen. And for the first time, I felt like, hey, that's me, because they never exclusively said ladies or gentlemen. They would say everyone, friends and folks, that's one of my favorites, friends and colleagues, esteemed guests, right? Pick any of them, make up your own, do something fun, creative, right? Get everyone engaged without using ladies and gentlemen. It's exclusive language. So the more we can create this inclusive language, the more we can integrate into the English language just that inclusivity, that the things that aren't pushing those oppositions, the more inclusive we can be. The other thing I want to touch on is when you don't know the pronoun of somebody, don't assume it, right? Somebody's gender presentation may not reflect their gender identity or their pronoun. Our brain lives in implicit bias, right? There's tons of information that we're being delivered. We're deciphering it. I'm not going to get into that. I could really go on a tangent there, but I'm going to stop myself. But our implicit bias tells us to put things in categories: safe, not safe, male, female, tall, short, right? All of these different things our brain is processing and trying to plug in the information to make sense of it. When we're looking at somebody from across the room, our brain says, that is a male or that is a female. And so we say, yeah, the guy's standing over there. So instead, I want you to try to challenge that and stop yourself and think of something that anybody could see. If the person wasn't included, what would be there? So maybe you would say something like, yeah, the individual wearing jeans. If there's only one person in the crowd that's wearing jeans, you know what you're talking about. The person with glasses. If there's only one person in the crowd that has glasses, you know who you're talking about. The person with short hair, the person with long hair, the person that's kneeling down, the person that's laughing, right? Find these characteristics that aren't gender exclusive and plug them in to describe somebody. Try not to use the boy, the girl, the man, the woman. This is really helpful in creating that inclusive language. We see somebody and we want to automatically gender them, and you catch yourself and you say, oh wait, no, I'm not gonna do that. Try not to plug in the non-binary or the gender neutral they, them, because that is an independent pronoun itself, right? So my pronouns are they, them. So if you went around and called anyone you didn't know the pronoun of they, them, that now is relinquishing me from my individual identity. So instead, try to learn that person's name as soon as possible. Hey, do you know that person's name with the blue shirt on? Figure out what they go by, what they're addressed as, before you start talking about them to other people. You're gonna spread misinformation if you do that. So just try to pay attention to that. Get that name as early as you can, and respect the pronouns as soon as you find them out. I also wanna mention that people might flex. Again, it's something that you can flex in between or outside of. So somebody's pronouns might change. They may not use the same pronouns they use in one space that they do in another space. So really normalize that introduction. When you see somebody outside of the space you normally see them in, just reintroduce yourself. Hey, my name is Ray. I use they, them pronouns again. Just wanted to let you know. Just wanted to remind you, right? Anything like that to open the door, so in case they do use a different pronoun, that person can tell you that. You give them the space. So mistakes can happen. We're gonna make mistakes. I make mistakes, right? Implicit bias is always running. It's always telling us to fit it into the box. And it's okay. You're gonna make mistakes. But when you do, don't make a huge deal out of it. That is my biggest pet peeve when I'm with a friend who's transgender, with a friend who's non-binary, with a friend who's presenting a certain way but goes by a different pronoun. When somebody says, yeah, she was gonna go get a sandwich. Oh, I meant he, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. What an idiot. It's like I can't get, okay, just take it down a notch. It's okay, right? It's just a mistake. Everybody's gonna make them. Instead, just remember it's not about you. Your impact is much greater than your intent. Your intent is to assure them, I didn't mean to do that. I do respect your pronoun. I am so sorry, right? But the impact that you're having on them is that now they need to reassure you. It's flipped. So now the pressure is on them, the responsibility is on that person to make you feel better when they're the one that isn't feeling so good, right? So just keep that in mind. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. Not a big deal. Correct yourself and move on. She was gonna go get a sandwich. I mean he was gonna go get a sandwich. That's it. That's all it's gotta be, okay? Ask questions. So if you're in a different space, again, ask that question. What are your pronouns again? Open that door for them. So when I was in high school, it's like 13 years ago, I started the Gay Straight Alliance at my small town high school. This did not get met with anything but resistance, but we did eventually, with the help of a few peers and one very supportive administrator, we were able to get the Gay Straight Alliance going. I'm happy to say that it is still going 12 years later. They are still doing events. Very good job. I reached out to the president of the GSA at that high school a few days ago and was absolutely elated to hear that they are still going strong. They're doing events every month during the school year. They're getting together outside in the summer. But just seeing that and knowing that even at a young age, I saw that there was no inclusivity. I saw that there was a real problem with an us versus them mentality. And that is what we're trying to shut down here. When we start making inclusive language, when we start including people, if we start intentionally including people, we'll start avoiding excluding people on accident, right? So I want to leave y'all today and just let you know that I have a tremendous amount of respect for every single ally, every single person of the LGBTQ community, and I am eternally grateful for the support that I've seen in this community and other smaller communities. It takes one voice to speak loudly. It takes one person to take action. And if we all do it, we can change the whole world. Thank you, everybody.